and pushes that over en masse to QuickBooks as a singular, or at least a couple of debited inventory accounts. By the way, I'm getting more and more into the accounting realm, so if you're not an accountant, I'm sorry. This is going to get super boring. So that reconciliation process is still what 95% of our customers do, actually, is they will either weekly or monthly, those that require some sort of valuation inventory for balance sheet in QuickBooks will do that reconciliation through running of reports in VISCO to gather all that information that is currently stored in VISCO, map that through a journal entry. Some are having that journal entry done automatically, others doing it manually, and getting that integration, getting that reconciliation done through a debit to inventory account or accounts, and a credit to various cost of goods sold accounts. In fact, there are variations even on that model as well, but I can tell you that the more recently you've signed up with us, the more clear and simplified I think I've been able to describe how that process should happen, and hopefully simplify your journal accounts in QuickBooks to such a degree that all the detail exists and resides in VISCO valuations, and your balance sheet actually has just got a few lines, maybe hopefully one inventory account, or several cost of goods sold accounts, because that reporting, in our opinion at least, should be coming out of VISCO. So that's all what is still happening today. Now there has been a little bit of push over the last year to get more real-time inventory valuation in QuickBooks, and being the one that supports all these things, I can say with I think you can sense in my tone that I'm not exactly trying to push anyone towards that, but I do want to let everyone know that it is becoming an option that is much more feasible than it was a year ago because of this product integration. Because we have the ability to now send product information down to QuickBooks, and we can tell every time a product's been sold in QuickBooks. And now we have the ability at the time of in-transit in VISCO, which may or may not have an impact on inventory depending on how you track your inventory, and certainly at the time of warehouse receipt, which for almost everyone I know, that would have an impact on how they track inventory, that we can send information down to QuickBooks at that time. This is new. Prior to again, a year and a half ago, we did not have the ability to send information down to QuickBooks at the time of in-transit in VISCO, at the time of inventory warehouse in VISCO, at the time of inventory adjustment in VISCO. But these things are all being done by at least a few customers, and there are maybe, again, 5% of customers right now that have total real-time integration with their accounting system in regards to inventory. So it is feasible, it is a possibility, but it's not this super easy road that is just, again, flipping switches. So point two, it was just to make that, to have that discussion that you can send down product information down to QuickBooks, and that gives way to a feasible way of maintaining real-time inventory integration, or real-time inventory evaluation in QuickBooks.
Will you stop me there? There's something else I think that you didn't mention, and I expect you to. I think you might just forgot about it. But we can now send information like in mass to QuickBooks. So in other words, if your products right now, if you're not integrated, your products aren't integrated with QuickBooks products, we can just run a routine that runs overnight that pushes all products over to QuickBooks in one, all behind the scenes, as opposed to, and same thing with customers, the same thing with vendors, as opposed to the old-fashioned way where you have to click update on every single customer to send it over. We now have this tool that can send it overnight. It slows the system down, so we do it overnight usually, and it'll update all products or all customers, all vendors. You don't have to do it one by one.
So Tim, when I look in QuickBooks and then vendor now, and the information show up. So I go to QuickBooks and vendors purchase by vendor, for instance, or just have to go look at bills.
You wouldn't have purchase orders still. So I don't know. No.
Even with real-time, even those that are using the total reconciliation, we don't create purchase orders. It's just general journal entries where we're pushing inventory in and out as needed. Same with sales orders. sales orders, some versions of QuickBooks have the sort of quotes and sales orders, so I'm not doing anything there. It's the maintenance that we've added on is the ability to maintain inventory through GL entries. Point 3 of this discussion about integration is that, and I touched on this a bit earlier, is that we have a bit of a history now of how to grab information from QuickBooks and put it back into VISCO somehow, whether that's through reporting or through the application. Of the two, I would say reporting by a long shot is the much easier to do at this point, but the application has become a viable option now based on some significant redesign work that we did to the integration in the last few months even. The history of this is that I'm going to mention a couple of different circumstances where we have done points of integration and created reports, and mention a couple of instances where we probably should be doing it with reporting that, as I understand it, does combine these things in a manual way right now. So I won't mention the specifics of that, but I do anticipate some people, some recognition of instances where this might be valuable based on some previous discussions we've had with various customers. So the first step, and this was about a year, maybe this is 2 years ago now, was a customer who's not here. I don't think, without showing you too much information about their customers and themselves, that it was appropriate to get anything meaningful in terms of demonstration. But what they essentially did was they created what they call a commission report, and it loads up VISCO's invoices. They select a day range and select a salesperson, loads up VISCO's invoices and compares it to all payments made in QuickBooks over the course of a given month or 2 month range. Based on the payments made specifically, it will highlight how much a customer, how much one of these guys' salespeople has made or has earned, and how much has been paid. And based on that, here's how much your commission is going to be. So the report itself is sent along to each one of the salespeople, and then a button is also clicked before he sends it along saying create cost, create commission cost, which automatically inserts a commission cost entry into VISCO that he can review and post down to QuickBooks. So the report is not only summarizing how much each salesperson has earned for the company over a given day range, how much of that's been paid, how much they're going to be paid, but also creating the cost in VISCO that turns into the bill that becomes that payment to the salesperson. These are outside in this case. So that is one example, and one of the first examples of how we grab QuickBooks information and put it into what would otherwise be essentially a VISCO report. Now, from a technical perspective, that was almost singular in its purpose because we did all the work inside of that report itself. That didn't give way to much in terms of being able to take it and use it for other purposes, which we have done more recently, because again, that was a couple of years ago. More recently than that, we've had an instance where one of the as-of reports, inventory as-of reports for one of our customers, they wanted to be able to get a clear picture of, in that report, not only do I want to see my current valuation based on accrued and actual, but in reality, actual is only telling me how many bills I've got from vendors, but not how many I've paid. So can you please go and grab, in an additional column, the amount paid that I've paid to a customer. So it's really 3 characteristics of each cost that comes in. In this case, I believe it's just material, could be wrong about that, but of each material cost that comes in, is it accrued, meaning we haven't gotten the bill from the customer yet? Is it actual, meaning we've gotten the bill from the customer? Or is it actual and paid, meaning we already paid I'm sorry, I just said customer 3 times, vendor. Is it paid by the vendor, paid to the vendor by way of a payment made in QuickBooks? And then they've got a summary saying this is how much I paid this customer, this vendor, for each of these products or for a summary that basically says, here are the vendors that I'm paying the most to, and here's the product I'm paying the most for. So there's, and that, again, from a technical perspective, was another step forward because we had, at that point, a standardized way of getting the information out of QuickBooks. Now, to take that to the next step, we talked about it in some detail actually yesterday. There are multiple versions now of this customer credit limit report out that Tim and Eric discussed yesterday that QuickBooks is using. And that has taken it to a whole new level in terms of our ability to grab information and the ease with which we can draw QuickBooks information into a VISCO report. Because, I don't want to overstate it, but that's something I think I'm going to, it's probably about 75% easier than it was, having done those few reports over the last couple months, to be able to say, get a specific report, essentially. They're called queries in QuickBooks as well. Get a specific query in QuickBooks, return those results, perhaps applying a filter to it, because frankly speaking, the speed that it takes for us to grab information in QuickBooks, no matter how we optimize, is not ideal. So we have to get creative in terms of how we're going to pull the information, whether we apply a date range filter or some other filter that's appropriate. But we're going to grab that information into a VISCO custom report, some spreadsheet that we've generated for other purposes, and draw that to be able to get a proper, collaborative reporting mechanism that tells us information from both systems, give us information from both systems to, again, the purposes I've described so far, whether it's the commission instance or the inventory as of report and this customer credit reports. I thought it might apply, as I was looking at you earlier, Matt, when I say can't hide it any longer, I thought it might apply to cash flow forecasting. Because what we've done now, and my note that it's so much easier than it used to be to grab this information, even 6 months ago, compared to 6 months ago. It's so much easier to grab this information than it used to be. Perhaps the next step for us is to be able to provide a full-fledged VISCO and QuickBooks combined cash flow custom report. Haven't done it yet. We've gotten close-ish, on the VISCO side at least. And I've seen, what I think is a good layout. Now, I don't know if that's going to work for everybody, which is why we're either seeking somebody who's interested in taking that next step and doing this, considering how much easier it's gotten, or maybe it's just time for us to decide to create what we think is the ultimate report that's going to do cash flow. Now, there are some cash flow tools already in various versions of QuickBooks that I'm aware of as well. Obviously, they don't take VISCO into account, but I would imagine we should and will be using those tools to some degree, both in our queries and also our design process, to be able to come up with the cash flow report, which, again, at this point is about 50% formulated in the collective VISCO brain as to what it's going to be and how it's going to look. But I expect we'll have a working version within months, whether you're guiding events, but we'll have a working version in months from somewhere that I think should be kept on the radar of everyone who's interested in those things: cash flow, management, and being able to truly tie the two systems together and get a proper month by month, total picture of cash. Looking at the balance sheet, looking at the P&L, etc. Everything that goes into a true cash flow, true budgeting report. We're a lot closer than we were, is my point. So that was one of the things that I wanted to touch on as the sort of future of this integration study. The other is, I've just been discussing this fairly recently with a customer, again, who's not here, but the ability to run reconciliations beyond what we're doing right now, where comparisons, it's really kind of just a cross-check happening between VISCO and QuickBooks in reporting, so I anticipate this coming fairly soon as well.